trauma comes from this Greek word for wounding, and we can understand a lot about the nature of trauma if we just understand how a wound behaves. Now, it's important to say that trauma is not what happens to us. It's not the event. It's the wound that we sustain as a result of the event. So surprising as this may seem, the trauma is not the sexual abuse. The trauma is not the death of your parent. The trauma is not the violence in your family. The trauma is not the tsunami, the war. The trauma is what happens inside you as a result of what happened to you from the outside. If we take that wound, a metaphor or reality, what is the nature of a wound? Well, one aspect of a wound is that as long as it's open and sore, it's raw and tender, and every time you touch it, it hurts. And you don't have to touch it with great force, you just lightly touch it and it hurts. These wounds, these traumatic wounds, when somebody touches them even lightly, it's like we're being wounded all over again. And this is where we get triggered. So if you look at, again, the meaning of the word trigger and the context from which this word, I'm being triggered, arises, the trigger is obviously a part of a mechanism, of a part of a weapon. How big a part of the weapon is the trigger? Tiny. For the trigger to be able to work, there has to be a huge weapon there. There has to be explosive charge. There has to be ammunition. When we're triggered, what's actually happening is that a raw wound is being touched. And so our reaction is way out of proportion to the actual touch. Most of the time, it actually reflects the rawness of the wound that we sustained a long time ago.